Welcome to Black Art is Lit, the podcast where each week we dive into the first chapter of a book that shaped a culture. I'm your host, Nakira Cheney, and today we're reading Bling by Erika Kennedy. Now, this is a novel that takes us deep inside the glitz and chaos of that early 2000s music industry. It was originally published in 2004, and Bling captures a moment when hip hop moguls' fame and access really tended to blur the lines and led to some of the conversations that we're still having today about visibility, ownership, owning your masters, access, how you're able to get into the industry, which we know is deeply changing now because of platforms like TikTok, and where you can take your music directly to the artist. But these were some of the times where this really shaped the Black narratives that's in pop culture. Unfortunately, I want to take a moment just to say rest in peace because Miss Kennedy has passed away. But before her untimely passing, she was one of those rare writers that really got a chance to merge like pop culture and social commentary in a way that was one easily digestible, entertaining, and really necessary in highlighting the voices of Black writers. So, as always, this episode focuses on the opening chapter and is shared for discussion and educational purposes only. If this is your first time here, welcome. Each episode centers again on that opening chapter of a book and the conversation that it opens. So let's go. When 21-year-old Mimi travels from a small town in Ohio to New York for an audition with Lamont Jackson, head of the hottest hip-hop label in the business, she has no idea that her life is about to change overnight. The moment Lamont hears the beautiful young singer's silky voice, he signs her up in a bid to find mainstream success beyond the hip-hop charts. Soon, Mimi is rocking the chicest designer clothes, hanging with an A-list crowd, and being escorted through velvet ropes into the city's most exclusive clubs. But everything comes with a price. As Lamont's new female star, Mimi is given the full makeover treatment. Fading supermodel Vanessa de la Cruz restyles Bohemian Mimi into a ghetto fab glamour girl with outrageous shopping sprees at Prada and Gucci. Lena Whitaker, the hip-hop obsessed daughter of a powerful attorney, is handpicked by Lamont to become her club-hopping sidekick, and Mimi can't quite tell if her spotlight-craving record producer Daryl Country D. McHenry is friend or foe. As Mimi is seduced by the clothes, money, and decadent lifestyle of her new crowd, she comes to see that Lamont's own future in the recording industry rests on her inexperienced shoulders. Cinderella never felt pressure like this. Lamont sauntered into the grill room like he owned the place. "Mr. Jackson?" The maitre d' greeted him warmly. "Mr. Green is waiting at your usual table." Lamont gifted him with a courteous half-smile. Their usual table was the best one in the Midtown Manhattan restaurant, where the power players converged. A dark-skinned man with an imposing build and a cocksure swagger, Lamont Jackson was not conventionally handsome. Rather, he had that well-groomed sheen particular to rich, image-conscious men. He cut a formidable swath as he strolled through the room in his favorite Brioni suit, chin up, acknowledging fellow members of the media elite with friendly nods, the masculine scent of his Bulgari cologne lingering in his wake. He derived a soul-deep satisfaction from being watched, being known. He felt their eyes upon him as he approached Irv Green, the 66-year-old chairman of Augusta Music, who had been ranked number 10 on last year's Entertainment Weekly Power 100. After his own record label had achieved its best year to date, Lamont had landed in the magazine's annual honorable mention spot at 100.5, an insult. He would have preferred not to have been mentioned at all. Lamont consulted his Patek Philippe as he slid into the booth. "Am I late?" Irv Green was a stickler for punctuality. It was something he and Lamont had in common. "No," Irv said cordially, not bothering to get up. "Right on time." They enjoyed a warm professional relationship. There was no need for formality, though if Lamont had arrived first, he would have instinctively stood up to greet the music industry legend. They ordered lunch and made small talk until Irv finally addressed the unspoken topics hanging in the air. "So it's true? he announced between bites of salmon. Really? Lamont attempted to sound surprised, even though rumors had been swirling for a month. They want you out? Yeah, Irv said. The fuckers. He leaned over and in a confidential whisper said, so everyone knows already, huh? Well, not everyone. What are people saying? Listen, Lamont said. HMG can't ask you to step down. They have no cause. None. Irv agreed immediately. It's a forced retirement. He was reconciled to the fact that he was being pushed out as the head of Augusta, where he had been cranking out hits for more than 30 years. What bullshit, Lamont spat, truly outraged. Even at 38 years old, as the CEO of Triple Large Entertainment, the hip-hop label he'd founded in a joint venture with Augusta, Lamont was feeling the heat from younger moguls in training. Bullshit it is, Irv sighed. But we operate in a world that worships the young and exiles the old. He shrugged. He'd been wrestling with the dilemma for a month and had let go of the anger. Technically, Lamont had to report to Irv, but mostly, he was the master of his own ship. Irv wasn't going to tell Lamont, an African American who has the pulse of urban culture, how to run a hip-hop label. Irv had been one of Lamont's most vocal supporters to the higher-ups at HMG, the German conglomerate that owned Augusta, the same fuckers who were trying to push Irv out of his job. You remember the first time we had lunch here? Lamont reflected. 9 years ago, when we were working out the joint venture? I remember it like it was yesterday, Irv said. You had on jeans that were too baggy, your Jordans, a yellow hooded Morehouse sweatshirt, and you kept taking calls on a cell phone that was the size of a brick. I was embarrassed to be seen with you. Lamont didn't want to be reminded of that. But remember what you said to me that day? People were just starting to realize that hip-hop wasn't just a fad. I said the Germans at HMG were racist, and the only reason they wanted to get in bed with me was because green was the only color that could blind them to my own. Irv nodded. And I said, I'm a Jew from Canarsie. You think they like me better? To them, we're both niggers. Accept it and move on. They both chuckled at the recollection. It was the best advice I'd ever gotten, Lamont said. Still is. He learned so much from Irv. How to handle corporate politics, how to groom and break an artist, even how to address. Lamont looked at Irv now, casually attired in a white shirt, no tie. What was left of his dark brown hair elegantly slicked back. The shirt was so crisp, so sturdy, so blindingly white it almost had a celestial glow. Where do you even buy a shirt like that, and how much did it cost? You also said, Lamont continued to trip down memory lane to massage Irv's ego. You make hit records. We all make money and everyone's happy. A thoughtful pause. You've been producing hits for 35 years, Irv. You made them a lot of money. You're still at the top of your game. It's not right what they're trying to do. That's what everyone is saying. Irv smiled and raised his glass in appreciation. So, what's next? Lamont asked casually. Self-serving to the bone, he was more curious what this shakeup meant for him than his mentor. Golf's not my thing, Irv said. Might start my own label. I can write my own ticket. A differential, of course. And they're still deciding on my replacement. The pause was so pregnant it was expecting triplets. Say it. Lamont silently urged. Say it. Irv Green looked across the table and smiled. If it were up to me, the job would be yours today. But I do know you're at the top of their list. Lamont leaned his considerable girth back on the leather banquet and pushed his plate of Rosito away, taking a moment to compose himself so his deep baritone voice would not sound too eager to reply. He felt like jumping up in the packed dining room and shouting, I'm ready. But he only shifted slightly, and when he spoke, he sounded cool and calm. You know, I've been thinking of branching out, he said, doing some R&B shit. I have some things in the works right now. Wonderful, Irv enthused. That's what you need to do. Show the Nazis you're not a one-trick pony. Irv wiped his mouth with a cloth napkin. There's still a lot to be worked out before I leave. Everyone's going to be watching you. Mondi, show them what you can do. As soon as Lamont hopped into the back of his Mercedes Maybach, he called Daryl McHenry his all-purpose whipping boy. They had already spoken about the brilliant idea that had come to Lamont last night. Daryl was just waiting for the word. Lamont had 3 for him. Call the girl. Chapter 1. Excuse me, miss? "'Cause we ain't nobody," LaToya said. Lakeisha turned around from peering out the window of the Chesterfield Hotel, annoyed because her question, why they gotta stand in this bum-ass hotel, had been a rhetorical one. There was no view, just another hotel across 37th Street, and from what little she could see, the rooms over there were nicer. "I know," Keisha said, "but still, we didn't even get a limo from the airport." "We didn't need a limo," Mimi said, busily straightening up. "They sent a car and it was fine." "Why are you cleaning up Kenny's room?" Keisha said, stretching out on the perfectly made bed. "Because I already finished with ours," Mimi said. "I can't just sit around doing nothing, waiting for the phone to ring. It's driving me crazy." They were sharing the adjoining room, but they were camped out here because their manager, Kenny Hill, would get the call at the hotel since his cell phone service had been interrupted for non-payment, and they wanted to be there when he did. "Let's eat," Keisha said. "That'll give us something to do." She picked up the room service menu. "We can order food, right?" She frowned over at Toya. "They pay for that?" Last night, after their audition at the triple large offices, they had gone to Planet Hollywood for dinner, hoping to spot some celebrities, unaware that it was a tourist trap populated by autograph seekers like themselves where no celebrity would ever be caught dead. "I don't know," Toya said wearily. Keisha was always looking for a free meal, literally and figuratively, and it got under Toya's skin that she was so simple-minded. "You need to ask Kenny." "Where he's at anyway," Keisha said. She twirled one of her long micro braids. "It don't take that long to buy a pack of Newports." Mimi didn't care about the low-budget accommodations, or that there had been no limo yesterday. Keisha thought this whole trip was going to be like an episode of Making the Band. She was obsessed with that show. Kenny did nothing to dissuade her from thinking it was going to be limos, parties, and Cristal bottles popping. But why on earth would anyone do that for them? They were nobodies. But they had come here to change that. They'd all been met at Performing Arts School of Toledo. They joked they were like TLC, whose Crazy Sexy Cool album was one of their all-time favorites. Keisha, big bone and equipped with a razor-sharp tongue, was the crazy component. Toya, a round-faced girl with a heartwarming smile and a degree of self-assurance that belied her years, was the cool. And Mimi? Well, she wasn't wild like Keisha, and she didn't possess Toya's innate confidence, so sometimes she felt she got the sexy slot by default. No doubt, Mimi was pretty. Since she was a baby, everyone had remarked on it. But in her usual baggy gear, sexy she was not. Tight jeans and midriff bearing tops invited attention, and as a biracial girl in a predominantly black school, she already stood out. All she'd ever wanted was to blend in. Her mother, Angela, was Italian, and Mimi couldn't remember her Haitian father, Jacques Bertrand, had run out on Angela a year after their only child was born, and the annual birthday cards that had arrived late, with no return address, stopped arriving altogether after Mimi's 8th birthday. She kept the details of her home life to herself, as she did most things, managing to pull straight A's while dodging the remnants and taunts of white girl and high yellow heifer, as if she thought she was better than other girls. Just like many of them, she was raised by an overworked single mother. She rode the bus to school from the bad side of town, and the clothes over which they ran a disapproving "You think you cute? I" were paid for by the after-school job she'd been juggling since she was 14. She never made her looks an issue. They did. Toya, however, was different. She made that clear only 2 months into freshman year, when Nichelle Griffin had stormed over to Mimi in the cafeteria and began to lay into her for coming onto her boyfriend, even though it had been Nichelle's wannabe teenage Lothario who had been coming onto a completely uninterested Mimi. Toya, whom Mimi knew only casually, had calmly looked over her shoulder from the next table and said, "You just mad because you wish you had that long hair." Go get yourself a weave and shut the hell up. Keisha, always spoiling for a fight of any kind, had jumped up to enter the fray, but Nichelle had slunk away before she could. Toya, Keisha, and Mimi had been friends ever since. Later that year, their group was formed. They named it Heart Song. They debated endlessly about what kinds of songs they wanted to sing, what kind of group they wanted to be. Keisha and Toya were into hip-hop. Mimi's taste fell more on the soul side. She idolized those female artists whose songs stirred something inside her more than an urge to dance. Her mother had harbored dreams of being a singer way back when, and music was the only constant in their unstable lives. From Aretha to Alanis Morissette, Sarah Vaughan to Sarah McLachlan, Mimi would close her eyes and try to mimic their every inflection, pretending she was them, not a girl from Toledo who wouldn't recognize her own father if he passed her on the street. That was how she got through performing on stage. She became someone else, whose ever song she was belting out. She was pretending to be Beyonce on the night they met Kenny at a local talent show. Heart Song had just won the top prize and $300 for their rousing rendition of Bills, 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 the Destiny's Child hit. A lanky, dark-skinned man of 34 with droopy eyes and a seemingly permanent deposit of white crust in the corner of his mouth. Kenny Hill's name was one they recognized from flyers posted all over town. A part-time club promoter. He told them he knew every musician, nightclub owner, and DJ in Toledo, which in retrospect they realized wasn't saying all that much. He proffered a business card that simply read talent manager, and they didn't know to ask him for any credentials beyond the promises he made. He talked about getting them a record deal, and he didn't ask them for money, and so it was that Kenny Hill became their manager. He had arranged for them to sing backup on demos at Wildside Studios in exchange for free studio time to record their own music. He kept telling them that he was setting up auditions with labels, but nothing ever panned out. And they graduated high school 2 years ago. The day after they tossed their caps, Mimi's part-time job at the discount Emporium Save Mart became full-time. Toya was doing hair at Black Roots without a license, and Keisha wasn't doing much of anything except hanging out with her crazy-ass drug dealer boyfriend. They finished their demo, using tracks Kenny bought from a local producer and singing generic R&B lyrics that Kenny had written himself. Kenny Hill, club promoter, talent manager, songwriter, jack of all trades and master of none. When he finally got a call back from Triple Large Entertainment a week ago, he didn't tell the girls right away that they had a chance at a recording contract. Instead, he had gotten everything in order, wrangling 4 coach plane tickets to New York, $2 $99 per night rooms to the Chesterfield, before he strolled into Wildside Studios and crowed triumphantly, "Pack your bags, girls. We're going to New York." Call the girl. Why did Lamont always have to be so dramatic? Daryl wanted to call the girl, but he couldn't even remember the bitch's name. La something, Latoya, or maybe that was the other one. He'd already asked Lamont's assistant and a receptionist if they remembered the name of the pretty one, because he couldn't find the group's bio and attached photo. With all the groups that had come through the office in the last 3 weeks, no one could remember a damn thing about any of them. Now Daryl rummaged through all the useless office memos on his desk in search of the package the manager had left with him the other day. Daryl's office was tiny, so was he. But what he lacked in size, he more than made up in self-confidence. He was 5'5" and 3/4 of an inch. But when anyone ever dared to question his height, he'd pull out his driver's license. Bam, 5'7". People always took that as gospel, as if the DMV actually measured folks. His office would have felt larger if he cleared out a half dozen boxes of demos he was supposed to listen to as the A&R rep of Triple Large Entertainment. When he first got the gig, he didn't even know what A&R stood for. Artist and repertoire, he was told. He still didn't entirely understand, but he had figured out what he was expected to discover new artists and work on their development once they were signed. That he could do, although he really wanted to be a producer solely and forget the office bullshit. He rarely got around to assessing the volumes of materials that found their way into the Midtown office. Most artists who got signed had already made names for themselves on the street or were affiliated with an established hip-hop clique. The next big thing rarely arrived unannounced via the United States Postal Service. Nevertheless, Paul, the record label's VP of A&R, stayed on Daryl's ass about listening to every single submission. A strapping, floppy-haired white guy in his mid-30s, Paul made six figures in his own hours. He was nicknamed Witchy because he had successfully cultivated so many R&B hip-hop acts at various companies that people said he could work black magic. 23-year-old Daryl didn't have an official title. He was usually called the A&R guy, which he preferred to being called Witchy's assistant. Though affable to most, Witchy cracked the whip on his departmental subordinate. Mostly, Daryl believed as a form of insurance. If Witchy failed to meet his monthly beat-up on Daryl quota, Witchy was guaranteed to receive a few lashes from the HNIC himself, Lamont Fat Man Johnson. Daryl idolized and despised Fat Man with equal fervor. Some days, he wished he were standing tall in Lamont's $400 shoes, making big moves and bigger bank. Other days, he hoped Lamont Jackson would keel over and just die from a massive coronary and spend all eternity rotting in hell. A few months ago, Fat Man had put out the call that they'd be branching out into R&B. They were hoping to find the next Destiny's Child. In the past 2 months, they'd seen 27 groups. None of them got past their first song. After an audition 2 days ago of 3 white girls with varying degrees of pink hair who called themselves Shades, it was obvious Witchy was digging at the bottom of the barrel. Lamont had turned to Witchy and said, "Mr. Mackinwich, why do I feel like I'm a judge on American Idol?" Daryl had fallen back on Lamont's sofa and laughed. It was a joy to see Witchy cracking some flank for a change. But the most hysterical part was that Lamont was beginning to resemble the fat guy on the show. And then this group Heart Song, the worst fucking name, had come in yesterday. Daryl had only listened to their demo as a favor to Megan, triple largest certified hottie receptionist. She had urged him to listen to it, saying that the manager was a friend of her cousin's. Oh well, I'll give it the VIP treatment right now, Daryl had clowned, like he cared. It was certain to be garbage, but if it brought him one small step toward getting some pussy from Megan, it was worth the listen. And what did you know? It wasn't bad. Not bad at all. Witchy was heated when he found out Daryl had flown them in without consulting him. One of the girls, the one with the long braids, had to be 20 pounds heavier than she'd been when the bio picture was taken. And the manager was annoying as hell. Daryl had to shove him out of Lamont's office as he tried to sell him on 2 other hip-hop acts he managed. The group's audition didn't seem to ignite much enthusiasm in Lamont, although he didn't say that he straight up hated them, which was his response to most of the 27 who'd come before. This morning, Lamont had called Daryl at the crack of dawn to say maybe they didn't need a group after all. Actually, his first words were, "Where the hell is Witchy?" Daryl rolled over, looked at the ungodly hour and yawned. "At home sleeping, maybe?" Lamont grunted his disapproval, then told Daryl he had a moment of revelation. He decided they needed just one girl, a solo artist. He wanted to meet with the lead singer of Heart Song, the pretty one, he said. Daryl finally found the bio picture sticking out of a stack of magazines on the floor. Mimi. That was her name. He looked at his fake Rolodex. Damn. It was already 4:15 and Lamont wanted her down there by 5. He picked up the phone and dialed the hotel. This chick could be his first discovery. And if a signing came out of this, he wouldn't let Witchy or Fat Man forget. Chapter 1. And that was the opening chapter of Bling by Erika Kennedy. Now, okay, let's start with this. Okay, we met the opening characters. You have Lamont, who has his record label that was also associated with Irv and the start of their record label. The intro opens us up and we see that Irv has gotten himself into something with the label that he's working with where they're trying to force him out. And in that conversation with Lamont, we see that he's possibly considering starting his own record label after decades in the music industry. Just immediately that goes to show that you can spend decades of your career pouring into something and have it stripped away from you just as it comes sort of pushing out of the old and bringing in of the new. So we start there before we're then taken into the group, and that's where we have an opportunity to meet Kenny, the manager. I say that very loosely. We meet Mimi and Toya, some of the members of the group, and I agree. The name Hearts, we're gonna have to find you a different name. So I completely agree with that. But what's important is, even though they went as a group, Mimi wasn't necessarily chosen because she had plotted like this pathway to be a solo star. It was that Lamont just decided that he didn't want to do the group thing anymore and just wanted one face and one voice. And she was the lead singer and she got picked. Now, the first thing I thought on that is, well, was she picked, or did she tend to look a little bit moldable? That we'll have to see as we get into it. And if you know anything about early hip hop history, I think that moment feels familiar for a lot of the groups and artists that we saw come through that way. Not just because of the artist itself, but because early hip hops, and even still today, is full of moguls, full of Lamonts, men with vision and access and power, the power to decide who gets to come into the industry, who and how will be reshaped for the machine, and what that's going to look for them. Not even necessarily if that's what their individual goal is. And then, of course, there's the Kennies, the managers. He wants the manager, but what does he have to offer? Seriously, no, not real leverage. There's not an infrastructure where he actually has that. And this is why I've always taken such a strong I make it sure to go my own path of ownership, so that way I'm controlling my own narrative and the stories that I want to tell. It cannot just be about proximity. It's about intention. So when Mimi has to break from that, what is that going to look like? Talking to her other band members and saying, they selected me, not you. And what will that do to some of those friendships? I'm sure it's going to be emotional. There is likely going to be guilt and resentment. How would you feel if you started a group and next thing you knew, the person that you started a group with was getting called and you were getting left behind? That has to feel painful. And again, if you know the lore, you've seen this play out before, because that early industry was full of people getting left behind while someone else moved forward. And of course, that could be true to life, but was it always necessarily fair, or was it just according to whatever that individual person that had the power and access wanted to happen? So it's not necessarily a story about talent. It's about who gets chosen, who gets molded, and who gets cut loose when the vision changes. So as we close out this first chapter, I guess my questions to you is, when opportunity comes with control that's attached, is it still opportunity? Like, what does it mean to be chosen, and who gets to do the choosing? How many careers that was in that early hip hop era that were built by reshaping somebody before they even had a chance to define themselves for who they were. Like, maybe people would love their music just by what it was that they presented versus whom the machine cranked you out to be. If you're enjoying this series, follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to. And please share this episode with someone that loves reading, loves the culture and stories behind the scenes. Next week, we'll pick up with a new book. And until then, keep reading and stay focused. Again, I'm your host, Erika Kennedy, and thank you for listening to Black Art is Lit.